Hello everyone, welcome to Viti Pathshala. So in this class we would be starting the 10th class, the economics part of the 10th class Tamil Nadu SCRT book. So the first chapter that we would be doing, so there are total four chapters that we have to do. So this is the first unit and that is the GDP and its growth and introduction. So आपको बार बार जो ये वर्ड जीडीपी है ये न्यूज में आता है. You hear this word in news, so it's an important chapter we would be going to study. So, what would be our learning objectives? Now, to know our learning objectives would be to know the gross domestic product. Now, to understand the basic various measures of the national income, to understand the composition of the GDP, to know the contribution of the different sectors in the GDP, to know the economic growth and the development and its differences we would be going to study here. Then the next thing is the to know the development path based on the GDP and the employment, to understand the growth of the GDP and the economic policies. Now let's start with the introduction. Introduction, first we would be going to study about the, now to understand how the GDP tell us how India is doing. Now you should understand what a GDP is. सो जीडीपी हमें ये बताती है कि भारत कैसे परफॉर्म कर रहा है, हाउ इंडिया इज परफॉर्मिंग. एंड फर्स्ट यू हैव टू नो अबाउट द व्हाट इज द जीडीपी, व्हाट द जीडीपी इट कॉन्स्टिट्यूट. नाउ इमेजिन व्हाट हैपेंस इन अ होटल. You place an order for the two idlis and a cup of tea. Now someone makes the idlis and the tea, and someone else serves you. Now idlis and the teas, they are produced. Now these are the tangible physical things you can touch and they feel. Now economics calls such a tangible items at the goods, so they are known as the goods. Now these goods are not free but have to be pay or to be paid. Now, though you do not realize it, in the addition to the tangible things called as the goods, something else is produced. So the work done by the cooks and the people who serve the food, the activity of the cooking and the serving is not something you can feel and that touch. So such activities are not tangible but are nevertheless crucial for you to enjoy the food, and these are called as the services. Now the new tax that has been introduced, its name is also the goods and services tax, the GST. Now what happens every day in a hotel at the nationwide, the goods and the services are produced and paid for. This what the GDP measures. So they have shown you a picture. This is the goods, this is the server, and this you are the consumer. Now let's start first with the definition of the GDP. The GDP is the market value of, so highlighting the things. So market value, the first thing here comes is it is the market value. Market value of what? The final goods and the services that are produced in a country during a period of the time. So again, now what is GDP? GDP market value. किसकी market value? Of goods and the services which are produced in a country, a geographical boundary. Country is a geographical boundary and over a period of time. Simple definition, easy definition. So these words they have explained you below also. What do you mean by the market? What is good and services and what are the final goods and the services? Now GDP equal to C comes for the consumption, I for the investment, G for the government expenditure, and X is for the export and M is for the import. So this is the formula of the GDP. कंजम्पशन प्लस में इन्वेस्टमेंट प्लस में गवर्नमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर and we will be minusing the we will be adding the export minus import. Now export and import every day of the definition is important. Now the above definition we have done, so every part of that definition is very crucial. First comes as the goods and the services. As you know, by now, goods are tangible items, while services are activities which are intangible. So, remember one thing, the goods tangible keywords and the services are intangible. Then next comes is the market value. Now, what do you mean by market value and what is the market value? Now, market value, this is the price at which goods and the services are sold. So for example, if a plate of the idli it costs rupees 20 and the tea costs rupees 10. So this is the market value of the idli and the tea. Next comes is the final goods and the services. Now economics Tyler Cowen and the Alex Tabak says that the final goods and the services are the goods and the services which will be used or the consumed. So they will be which they will be used or the consumed. So here the keywords for this is your the which will be used or will be consumed. The goods and the services which will be used for producing other goods and the services will form the part of the goods and the services produced are called as the intermediate goods. So, Joe, for example, if you have bought the idli and you have consumed that idli, that means that good it has been finished. Now, if you order the idli and you take the idli and you sell further, or you make something else of that, or you take the tea. For example, there is an example I will give you of a tea. For example, if you buy the tea for your home, so then you are consuming, it is ending there, it is a finished good. अगर आपने जो टी घर पर यूज कर ली तो वो फिनिश्ड गुड हो गया. Whereas the tea bought by the tea seller, so he would be turning that tea in the intermediate good. He would be buying that and he would not be consuming, but he would be using it that in making the tea and thus selling the tea. So I'm talking about the tea leaves. Now, only the final goods are included in the GDP. So remember what are included in our GDP? The final goods are included in the GDP. The intermediate goods, they are not counted in the GDP because their value is included in the final goods. So intermediate goods को जो है हम count नहीं करते. We do not count. So the intermediate goods are included in the GDP. It will result in the what double counting हो जाएगी. So to avoid the double counting, we do not use the intermediate goods. We use only the final goods. Now, for example, a cup of tea bought in a hotel is a final good because it is consumed and does not form the part of the producing something else. So the market value of the cup of the tea being the final good is included in the, so for example, it would be the 10 rupees. So these 10 rupees would be included in the GDP because this is a final good. Now, sugar which is mixed in the tea is an intermediate good. So, sugar was an intermediate good because it is used in the making the tea and forms a part of the tea served. Now, suppose the tea is priced at the rupees 10 per a cup, of which the value of the sugar used is rupees 2. So the price of the cup of the tea includes the rupees 2 price of the spoon of the sugar. And if this value of the sugar is included in the GDP, it will be counted the twice. मतलब कहने का मतलब ये है, I wanted to deliver that, and the person who has written this, he wanted to deliver this, that in this 10 rupees, earlier this 2 rupees are included. So whatever 10 rupees you have given, so those 10 rupees they include the 2 rupees of the sugar also. Now, this is the doubling counting, and to avoid it, intermediate goods like the sugar are excluded from the GDP. Now, do let me know about that if my voice is a little low. So, volume, tell me about it. It is good or not, because I'm not well, so I'm not speaking loud. Now next comes is the national income. अगली अगर हम बात करें तो national income. I hope the definition of the GDP is you have understood the definition of the GDP. Now, national income is a measure of the total money of the goods and the services. So, what next comes? Next is the national income. Now, what is the national income? It is the total money value. So, here the keyword in economics do focused on each and every word. Because unless you will not be able to understand what is the market value, what are the goods and the services, what is a time period, what is a geographical area, so you would not be able to understand the things. So in economics, each and every word has its own importance. So do understand each and every word, and do let me know if you are not able to understand any of the concept. Now, national income, what is it? It is the measure of the total money. So here word total is used. Total money value of the goods and the services produced. So what are the keywords? First keyword is the total. Then comes is the money value. Money value of what? The goods and the services that are produced. So here the keywords, important word is the total, then the money value of goods and services, then the produced by an economy over a period of time. Normally, that time period is 1 year. Now, commonly, national income is called as the gross national product or national dividend. So, in common words or easy words, if I tell you about the national income, what is that? So, national income is the income of a country's production for a period, the production of the goods and the services, that is called the national income. So remember, the difference between the GDP and the national income is that the GDP is the market value of final GDP, market value of final, whereas national income is the total money value. So remember here, one is the your market value, other is your the money value. Now, if you interchange these words, your question will be wrong or your definition will be wrong. So, market value of final goods and services of a country at a period of time. National income, total money value of goods and services produced over a period of time in an economy. Now, various terms which are associated with the national income. First comes as the gross national product. Now, what do you mean by gross national product? Now, gross national product is total value of goods and services produced and income received. So, what is that? It is the total value. Total value of what? Total value of goods and services. Goods and services, those are produced. and income received in a year by the domestic residents of the country. So remember here the domestic resident is are included only. Now GNP, it is equal to the total value of goods and services जिनको प्रोड्यूस किया गया है, which are produced and income has been received. They have sold also, and the money has been received in a year and by the domestic residents. Now it includes the profit earned from the capital invested abroad also. So remember that. Now what would be the formula of the GNP? First, consumption. Who is doing the consumption? We, the people, citizens are doing the consumption. Then comes is the investment. Then government's expenditure. Then import, export minus import, and then the net factor income from the abroad. So this would be the formula of GNP. Now next is the GDP. Now, what is the GDP? It is the total value of output of the goods and the services which are produced by a factor of production within the geographical boundary of the country. So, this is the same definition which we have studied. Next comes is the net national product, or the other word for it is the your NNP. Now, what do you mean by the NNP? Now I'm going slow because these things are important and you confuse in between these things only. So that's why I am going very slow in order that you will be able to understand the things. The net national product is arrived by making some adjustment with regard to depreciation, and that is we arrive the net national product by deducting the depreciation from the GNP, that is gross national product. So we have studied the GNP. Now what was the GNP? GNP was equal to consumption plus investment plus the government expenditure plus export minus import plus net factor of the production from the abroad, NFIP. So now that was the GDP. Now in that production, you a company must have some wear and the tear also. So that is called as the depreciation. कुछ घाटा हुआ होगा, कुछ loss हुआ होगा. So if we minus that depreciation, we arrive at the net national product. Now, for example, there is a gross salary. आपकी gross salary होती है approx 50,000. Then out of that there are some deduction. For example, 2,000 tax is deducted, or then the 10 your pension fund is deducted. 1,000 medical fund and 500 other funds they have deducted. So approx 4,500 they deducted. So what would be your net pay? Net pay would be your 45,000 only. So what does this mean? This means you are getting in hand 45,000. So what is the depreciation for you? The depreciation here is the 4,500 that has been deducted. So similar way you can imagine for the it is a I'm for the example sake I am saying that. Now next comes is your the net domestic product. Now, net domestic product is a part of the gross domestic product. So, what is it? So, first keyword here is part. Now, part of what? Part of the gross domestic product. Now, net domestic product, it is obtained from the gross domestic product by deducting the quantum of the tear and the wear. That is the depreciation. So what do you have to underline here? The quantum. So what was the quantity of the depreciation? So NDP equal to GDP minus your the depreciation, and that is your the you will find that by deducting the quantum. Now next concept it comes about the per capita income. So who was the first person to find out the per capita income of the country? He was the Dadabhai Naroji. We have done in the history. Now per capita income, or we can say output per person. Now it is an indicator to show the living standard of the people in a country. So what is that? It is an output या फिर indicator. What are the output indicator? Which shows us the living standard of the people in a country. Now, how it is obtained? So, it is obtained by dividing the national